You never gave me anything." The line hit me before I even understood what I was looking at. Her voice was sharp, almost shaking, but not from emotion, from something colder. Those words didn't land like a sentence. They landed like a lifetime being erased in a single breath. And for a moment, I couldn't even speak. I just stood there, phone in my hand, staring at the screen as if the message would rewrite itself into something kinder. I wish I could tell you I answered right away. I didn't. I felt my chest tighten in a way I hadn't felt since the day her mother died. It was the same kind of pain, quiet, sudden, and cruel. My own daughter telling me I gave her nothing, after years of doing everything I could to keep her safe. I called her, hoping it was a mistake, or a bad moment, or something that could be explained. She picked up, but there was no warmth, no pause, no second thought, only a hard voice saying, "Stay out of my life. Don't call me again." Then the line went dead. I felt that silence more than I felt the words. What shocked me wasn't just the anger. It was how practiced it sounded, as if someone had been whispering in her ear, teaching her what to feel, what to believe, and who to blame. I didn't want to think that. But the coldness didn't feel like her. Not the girl who once ran to me when storms scared her. Not the kid who laughed herself breathless playing in the yard. No, this was someone else speaking through her, or someone pushing her to believe something twisted. But that wasn't even the part that hurt the most. What tore through me was the memory of her as a little girl, the house key hanging on a red ribbon around her neck. She used to hold it in her hand as she walked to school, swinging it gently like it was something magical. I had given it to her because she wanted to feel grown up, responsible, trusted. That key was a promise that she would always have a place with me, no matter what. And somehow she forgot all of that. Or maybe she forced herself to forget. Or maybe someone made forgetting easier. While she was telling me to disappear from her life, I was still paying the electric bill that kept her apartment lit. She had no idea I had covered the late fee the night before. That's the part that felt unreal. Being told I gave nothing while quietly covering the very things keeping her afloat. I'd been doing that for months. Quiet payments, quiet help, quiet love. I never asked for thanks. I never wanted praise. I just didn't want her to struggle. And she never asked how the lights stayed on when she overlooked a payment. She never wondered why the water wasn't shut off. She never questioned why fees vanished before they reached her doorstep. She never connected any of it to me. Maybe she didn't want to. I kept thinking about that key, the one she wore every day, the one her mother kissed before sending her off to school, the one I told her would always unlock a door where she was wanted. Somewhere along the road, she forgot its meaning. Maybe she forgot us both. But here's what I can't forget. How one sentence can undo decades. How a grown woman can throw away her own history. How a father can be pushed out by the very child he protected. And I keep wondering, has anyone ever erased everything you've done with just one sentence? I remember the day I put that small brass key on a ribbon and slipped it around her neck. She couldn't have been more than 8, standing in the doorway with her backpack almost bigger than she was. She wanted independence so badly back then. She asked why she couldn't have a key like the older kids on our street. She said she wanted to let herself in after school just in case I was running late from work. I hesitated, not because I didn't trust her, but because I didn't want her to ever feel alone. Yet she stood there with those determined eyes, so sure she was. So I handed her the key, the one to the house I worked double shifts to keep, the one I nearly lost 3 times when money got tight, the one that represented every sacrifice I made to give her a home that felt safe, steady, and certain. She looked at that key like it was treasure. She promised she'd never lose it. She promised she would come home, lock the door, and call me as soon as she was inside. And she did. Every day, rain or shine, that key dangled from her neck all through elementary school, clinking softly when she ran toward me at the end of the day. It wasn't just metal. It was trust. It was love. It was everything I could offer at the time. I went without things so that home stayed standing. I skipped repairs on my own truck to pay the mortgage. I took overtime to keep the heat running during winter. I ate cheap meals so she never felt the stress I carried. But as she grew older, the key moved from her neck to her backpack, then from her backpack to a drawer, then from the drawer to a place I'm not sure she even remembers. Somewhere along the way, the symbol faded for her. And then, little by little, she began to pull away. Not suddenly, not all at once. Just small shifts, a shorter tone on the phone, fewer visits, excuses replacing conversations. I told myself it was adulthood, stress, busy schedules. I never imagined she was slowly rewriting her own memories, turning our years of sacrifice into something she now calls nothing. That's what hurts most, not just the distance, but the idea that the home I held together for her no longer exists in her mind as something I gave. Lately, I've sensed something else, too. Pressure around her, money slipping through her fingers faster than she can keep up. She avoids talking about her bills. She gets tense when I ask if everything is all right. She acts like I'm prying, even when all I'm doing is caring. I can feel there's someone whispering in her ear again, shaping her frustrations into blame. But I think about that key often, the way she held it proudly, the way she trusted that when she opened the door, she would never walk into darkness or cold or fear. She doesn't remember that now, and maybe she doesn't want to. Sometimes I wonder, do our children remember what we gave, or only what they think we didn't? I told myself it was just a quick visit. Nothing heavy, nothing emotional. I had a bag of groceries in my hand. Simple things she liked, things I used to keep stocked when she lived under my roof. I figured she might appreciate the help, even if she didn't say thank you, even if she didn't talk much anymore. But when I knocked, the silence behind the door felt different. It wasn't the quiet of someone asleep or in the shower. It was the quiet of someone choosing not to answer. I knocked again, gently at first, then a little firmer. "It's me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I waited. Nothing. I could hear movement inside. Quick footsteps, a whisper, a soft thud, like someone bumping into something while trying to stay out of sight. My heart sank. Even without seeing her face, I knew she was there. Finally, the door opened an inch. Not wide enough to see her expression, just wide enough for her voice to slip through. "Why are you here?" I froze. She didn't sound annoyed. She sounded defensive, almost scared, but not of me, of what my presence might expose. "I brought you some things," I said softly. "Just checking in. I don't need anything from you," she snapped. Her partner's shadow moved behind her, tall, restless, irritated. I'd always felt something off about him, the way he looked at me like I was an inconvenience, the way she acted differently whenever he was near, less herself, smaller somehow. Through the narrow crack of the door, I noticed a stack of unopened mail on the floor, past due notices, a red slip from the electric company, a final warning taped to her hallway wall. She shifted her foot quickly, trying to hide the mess from view, but it was too late. I saw the truth she was trying to bury. "You shouldn't just show up," she said, her voice tightening. "You were never really there when I needed you." That one sentence cut deeper than her outburst days earlier. Never there. I wanted to remind her of sleepless nights, packed lunches, school pickups, medical bills, the house key she once treasured. I wanted to remind her of every sacrifice she didn't see because she was too young to understand. But saying that felt pointless. She'd already rewritten the story in her mind, and her partner wanted it that way. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right," I said quietly. The door shut, not violently, not loudly, just firmly enough to tell me I wasn't welcome. I stood there with the grocery bag still in my hand, the weight of it suddenly heavier. I placed it gently on the ground beside her door, hoping she'd at least keep the food. Then I turned to leave, feeling smaller than I have in years, like the world had folded in on itself. As I walked back to my car, a question dug itself into my thoughts. Why was she working so hard to change her past? And who was helping her do it? "Would you knock again?" Or walk away? The envelope looked ordinary. Just another piece of mail slipped through the slot the way it always had. But when I saw her name on it, my stomach tightened. I hadn't lived with her for years. I hadn't received her mail in even longer. Something was wrong immediately, even before I tore it open. Inside was a past due notice from her utility company, not addressed to me, but forwarded to my home because, according to them, I was still the primary contact on the account. At first, I thought it was an old error, something from the years I helped her get settled into her first apartment. But the date stamped across the top was current, very current, and the balance was far more than a single missed payment. I logged into the old account, one I hadn't touched in years, and my hands shook when I saw it. My bank card was still linked. My name was still listed as the responsible party. My number was still on file. But the email had been changed, not to hers, to an address I didn't recognize. It wasn't a mistake. Someone had gone into that account and updated the contact information without ever telling me, without asking, without my permission. I called the company, trying to keep my voice steady. The representative confirmed it calmly, like it was routine. "Yes, sir. The email was updated last year." The authorization came from your account login? My login? I asked. My throat tightened. I didn't change anything. There was a pause, a long one, before she spoke again. Well, someone did, from a device that wasn't on your original file. I felt the floor tilt under me. Someone had gotten into my old accounts. Someone who shouldn't have known the login. Someone who, months earlier, told me I never gave her anything. I asked the representative how long my card had been paying for her. She hesitated again, then gave me a date. Years, not months, years. Through job changes, bill increases, late notices, added fees, I had been covering her shortages without even knowing. And she never said a word, not once, not even a thank you. I remembered the stack of unopened mail by her door, the tension in her voice, the way she looked past me as if I were something she had to step around, all while letting my bank account clean up the mess behind her. This wasn't just hurt anymore. This was exploitation. Quiet, steady, intentional exploitation. I thought back to her saying I'd never given her anything. Meanwhile, I'd been paying to keep her lights on, her water running, her home warm. I'd kept her afloat without her ever acknowledging it. Maybe she convinced herself she was doing it all alone. Maybe her partner convinced her I owed her more. Maybe rewriting the narrative was easier than facing the truth. But standing there with that overdue notice in my hand, I realized something. She hadn't forgotten the past. She had buried it, and someone helped her shovel the dirt. Should adult children ever access a parent's accounts without permission? I sat in the attorney's office feeling smaller than I had in years. The room wasn't intimidating. Plain walls, neatly stacked files, a single framed certificate. But the weight I carried made it hard to breathe. I never imagined I'd walk into a lawyer's office because of my own daughter. Yet there I was, holding the overdue notice like it was proof of a crime I couldn't fully accept. The attorney, a calm man with steady eyes, listened without interrupting. I told him about the mail, the auto-pay account I didn't remember approving, the changed email, the device that wasn't mine. I told him how long the payments had been draining from my account. I tried to stay composed, but the words came out tighter than I wanted, like they were squeezing through a narrow space between pride and heartbreak. When I finished, he leaned back and took a slow breath. "You did the right thing coming here," he said. "What you're describing isn't a misunderstanding. It's unauthorized access, potentially fraud, and depending on her intent and your age, it may qualify as elder financial exploitation." Those words hit me harder than my daughter's insult. Elder exploitation. I knew what that meant. But hearing it said out loud, hearing myself placed in that category, felt unreal. I'd always seen myself as strong, capable, still steady on my feet. But the law didn't look at how much weight I could carry or how determined I was. It looked at vulnerability. And whether I wanted to admit it or not, someone had taken advantage of mine. The attorney continued, his voice firm but not unkind. "Accessing your account without permission is illegal. Updating your contact information is illegal. Using your financial identity for years without disclosure, also illegal. This is not something we chalk up to family issues. This is a crime." I felt heat rise in my chest. Anger, grief, humiliation, all tangled together. "She said I never gave her anything," I murmured. "But I've been paying her bills without even knowing." He nodded slowly. People rewrite history when it benefits them, or when someone else influences them too. But the law doesn't care about personal narratives. It cares about facts. Facts. Cold, undeniable facts. Someone logged into my account from a device I didn't own. Someone changed an email to hide activity from me. Someone let me pay years of bills while telling me I was absent. Someone exploited the trust I spent a lifetime building. The attorney slid a notepad toward me. "Here's what we need to do," he said. "Step 1. File a formal complaint with the utility company and your bank. Step 2. Authorize an investigator to pull digital records. Step 3. Pursue restitution and possible charges for unauthorized access and elder exploitation." My hands trembled as I picked up the pen. Not from fear of legal action. No, it was the emotional cost. Signing meant acknowledging that my daughter had crossed a line I never thought she'd approach. It meant accepting that love couldn't excuse harm. It meant facing a truth I'd been avoiding. She didn't just erase our past. She stole from it. Still, I signed. Not out of anger alone, but out of something quieter, heavier. Resolve. If she had chosen this path, then I owed it to myself to follow the truth wherever it led. The attorney met my eyes. "You're doing the right thing," he said softly. I wasn't sure if it felt right, but I knew it was necessary. Would you take legal action if your child crossed this line? I didn't go there to fight. I went because the attorney told me it was time to present the evidence myself, to make it clear that this wasn't a misunderstanding or a family disagreement. This was wrongdoing, theft, exploitation, and for once, I needed her to hear the truth without twisting it into something else. When I knocked, the door opened faster than before, not because she wanted to see me, because her partner was the one standing there. He leaned his shoulder against the frame, smirking like he'd been waiting for a chance to prove something. What now? He asked, voice dripping with irritation. My daughter appeared behind him, arms crossed, eyes already narrowed. She looked defensive, not curious, defiant, not concerned. I held the folder the attorney had prepared, bank statements, login records, the utility company's report with timestamps proving unauthorized changes. I handed the papers to her carefully, as if the truth needed gentle delivery. She barely glanced at them. This is blown out of proportion, she said. You're making drama out of nothing. Nothing. I kept my voice steady, but inside something twisted sharply. Someone accessed my account without permission. Someone changed the email. Someone let my money cover your bills for years without telling me. Her partner stepped forward, snatching one of the papers. So what? He said with a mocking laugh. Old people forget passwords all the time. Maybe you just don't remember giving her permission. That sentence, that tone, it ignited something deep in my chest. Not rage alone, something colder. Clarity. He wasn't guessing. He was covering. He knew exactly what had been done. I didn't forget anything, I said. And this device login wasn't mine. These changes weren't mine. My daughter scoffed, folding her arms tighter. You always act like a victim. Maybe if you'd been there more. There it is, I whispered, feeling something inside me fracture. Changing the story again, rewriting the past so you don't have to face what you did. Before she could argue, a voice cut through the tension. Police department. 2 officers stepped into view from the stairwell. My attorney had advised me to request a welfare and fraud check when confronting them, in case the situation escalated. I'd followed that advice, and now the weight of it filled the hallway. Her partner's face drained of color. One officer turned to me. Sir, are these the documents you reported? I nodded and handed them over. The officer scanned the records carefully. 1 page, then the next, then back again. The longer he read, the heavier the silence grew. Then he looked at my daughter. Ma'am, these are serious allegations. Unauthorized account access is a criminal offense. You and your partner will need to provide statements. What? She snapped. He's lying. He's twisting things to make me look bad. Her partner stepped back, hands raised. Hey, we didn't do anything. This is just a family misunderstanding. But the evidence wasn't a misunderstanding, and the officers knew it. One of them asked her to step outside. Another asked her partner to wait separately. Their voices stayed calm, professional, but the shift in tone was unmistakable. This wasn't a scolding. This was the beginning of a case. I watched them argue, deny, deflect. Every word they threw into the air made the truth clearer. They were cornered, and they knew it. But instead of remorse, all I saw was anger at being caught. When the officers finished taking statements, one pulled me aside. You did the right thing reporting this, he said quietly. We see this kind of exploitation more often than people realize. His words settled heavy in my chest. Right didn't feel right. Not yet. It just felt necessary. As I walked away, I didn't feel victorious. I felt hollow, older than my years, carrying the weight of a choice I never wanted to make. But beneath all the sorrow, there was something steady, something resolute. The truth had been spoken out loud, and there was no taking it back. Does their behavior sound innocent to you? The courtroom felt colder than any place I'd ever been. Not because of the temperature, but because of what the room represented. Truth has a way of stripping everything down to its bare bones. There's no soft light, no excuses, no rewritten memories. Just facts lined up in front of people who have no reason to doubt or protect anyone. I took my seat at the front, feeling the weight of the moment press against my spine. This was the day the truth I carried alone for years would finally be spoken out loud. The clerk read the charges first. Hearing them listed in order, unauthorized access, financial fraud, elder exploitation, made my throat tighten. Each word felt like a stamp, marking the distance between who my daughter used to be and who she chose to become. Her name followed every charge. I didn't look at her when they read them. Didn't trust myself to. The prosecutor stood and began laying out the case. They presented the digital logs, the timestamps, the access history showing login after login from devices that weren't mine. They showed the email changes, the years of autopay transactions, and the billing address updates traced to her IP. They explained it all simply, clearly, so even I, sitting there holding my own grief, could understand the full picture. Then the witnesses came. The representative from the utility company testified first. She confirmed exactly what I had already learned the hard way, that my daughter had been using my account information for years without a single authorization from me. She described how the email change was submitted, how the notifications were rerouted, how every overdue payment disappeared only because my bank covered it. Next came the digital specialist. He spoke calmly, breaking down each login point, each device signature, each trace of digital fingerprints. "There is no evidence of accidental access," he said plainly. "These were intentional actions to assume control of the account." I glanced toward my daughter then. She sat stiff, jaw tight, eyes cold. No remorse, no recognition, only resentment. Toward me, toward the system, toward the truth unraveling around her. Her partner beside her looked smaller than usual, no longer cocky, no longer smirking, just pale. When they called me to the stand, the courtroom seemed to shrink. My voice sounded older than I expected as I spoke about the key around her neck, the overtime I worked, the quiet payments I made even after she pushed me out. I didn't embellish. I didn't try to win anyone over. I just told the truth the way a father does, steady, honest, with the kind of love that still aches even when it's been mishandled. When I finished, there was a long silence. The judge leaned forward, eyes heavy with something like understanding. "You provided for your daughter far beyond what the records show," he said quietly. "This court recognizes the depth of your support and the seriousness of the actions taken against you." Hearing that, those simple words felt like finally breathing after holding my lungs still for months. The judge turned toward my daughter and her partner, his voice sharp now. "This is not a family misunderstanding. This is exploitation, and the law does not excuse it." I watched her face pale, saw the panic she tried to hide, saw the truth finally catch up. As the judge moved the case toward sentencing and restitution, all I could think was how strange justice feels, how it can bring relief and grief in the same breath. Do you think justice is enough in situations like this? The sentencing was short, almost quieter than everything that led up to it. Restitution was ordered, mandatory counseling, community service, and a formal record of financial exploitation. Her partner faced charges as well, the kind that follow a person for years. It wasn't jail, but it wasn't nothing either. It was the law acknowledging what had been taken from me. Not just money, but trust, time, history. When it was over, I walked out of the courthouse alone. No one waited for me. No one held my arm. No one tried to offer comfort. And yet, for the first time in a long while, I felt steady, not healed, not relieved, just steady enough to face the truth without shaking. That night, I opened the drawer where I kept the small box I hadn't touched in years. Inside, wrapped in soft cloth, was the key she once wore around her neck. The ribbon was faded, its color almost gone. The brass had darkened with age. I held it in my palm and felt the weight of everything it once meant: safety, trust, belonging. It was more than a house key. It was a promise I made to a little girl who believed that door would always open for her. But promises depend on two people remembering them. Somewhere along the line, she let someone convince her that what I gave didn't matter, that everything she had growing up was owed, not offered, that love was measured only by what she wanted in the moment, not what had been sacrificed for her future. The key didn't change. She did. I didn't take it back to punish her. I kept it because I couldn't let the memory of who she once was be rewritten completely. Even now, holding the key didn't bring anger. It brought clarity, that the home I built was something she walked away from long before the courtroom ever called her name. And yet, I didn't throw it away. Not because I hoped she'd come running back, not because I wanted her to remember, but because the meaning of that key is mine now. A reminder of what I gave freely. A reminder that love, when real, leaves a mark even when it is forgotten by the person who received it. I've set boundaries now, firm ones. My accounts are protected, my finances are locked, my heart less open, but not hardened. Some lessons require distance to keep dignity alive. I don't know if our relationship will ever heal. Maybe one day she'll face the memories she tried to bury. Maybe she won't. Healing was never something I could force, not for her and not for myself. But I do know this. I gave her what I could. I gave more than she ever knew. And I'm done letting anyone rewrite the truth I lived. I placed the key back in the box gently, not as a father waiting for his child to return, but as a man honoring the part of his life that mattered, even if it mattered to him alone. Would you forgive someone who rewrote your entire history?